Welcome to Step 14. Today we're going to learn 2 new notes and a whole lot more. For instance, we're going to learn a mixolydian scale. You're going to learn a little bit about how the notes can be arranged from line to line and space to space, and that makes up what we call the interval of thirds. And from that, I hope that we'll be able to help you accelerate your ability to recognize notes more quickly, and that will be fun. Last but not least, you're going to learn a little bit about how to take a tune and change it yourself, whether it be improvisational or by thoughtful consideration. Okay, lots of stuff to take a look at. We'll start with the 2 new notes, notes G and A. The note G is on the 3rd string and it's open. There are only 2 notes on the 3rd string, G and A. And as we've already talked about, only the note B to C and E to F are distant by 1 fret. All the others have a distance between them of 2 frets. So from G to A, we'll move it from the 3rd string open to the 3rd string 2nd fret. Okay, the rest of the notes of the scale are as follows: B, C, D, E, F, G. Of course, most of those you already knew. Let's do this from the beginning. Down, up, G, A, open B, C, D, open E, F, and G. Oh, that sounded a little weird, didn't it, at the very end? That's what distinguishes it from a G major scale. You notice the 7th note sounded a little flat. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the name of that scale we just played is called a mixolydian. So if anyone asks you what you learned this week, you can say, well, I learned mixolydian mode. And if that doesn't impress them, well, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, let's take a look at the notes on the scale, but this time we're going to skip notes. We're going to go from G and skip A to B, and skip C to D, and skip E to F. Ready? 3rd string open, G, open 2nd string, B, D on the 3rd fret, and F on the 1st string, 1st fret. Let's do that again. Excellent. If it sounded a little bit like the beginning of one of the Beatles songs, that's because they did begin a number of songs with chord tones. And this chord sound that we played each individual note make up a dominant 7th chord, a G 7th chord. G, B, D, and F. What else do they have in common? They're all on a line. G, 2nd to the bottom line, B, 3rd line, middle line, D, 2nd to the top line, and F on the top line. Excellent. Let's try now, this time on the note A. A, 3rd string, 2nd fret, C, 2nd string, 1st fret, E, 1st string open, and G, 1st string, 3rd fret. Try that again. A, we skip B to C, skip D to E, skip F to G. And those notes make up a chord too. It's called an A minor 7th chord. And if you haven't guessed already, what do they have in common? They're all on a space. So let's do the G chord, and then we'll do the A minor 7th chord. Yep. Start with the G chord, G 7th chord, sorry. G, B, D, F. And now let's go to the A, C, E, G. practicing the thirds in sequence as we just did, and correlating it not just to the fretboard, but to the notes on the written page, will help you be able to identify notes more quickly, especially when they jump from space to space and line to line. In conclusion, we have a piece called Theme and Variation. And the theme is, well, let's take a look at it. You've got G, A, and next measure we've got B, C, D, good. And then on the third measure, it begins with a E. So up to there, from G to E, if you look at it carefully, you'll notice they're all moving by step. It's just like a scale, but the rhythm's different. Yeah. So you've got G, A, and now quarter notes. And next measure E, and stop. If you look at the third measure, yes, you see that it was space to space. And we just practiced that just a moment ago. Space E to the next space G, and back to the space E. So that measure goes. And now look at the next measure. Are they moving by step, or do we have any skips? They're moving by step. Very good. So we would continue by step, D, C, B. Okay, so maybe you're already kind of noticing that by recognizing from the very beginning what you see before you and analyzing it just a little bit, you can speed up the process of you being able to play the notes. Sight reading is being able to recognize patterns quickly and to know what those patterns mean in terms of a sequence of notes, whether they're moving by step or whether they're moving by skip. Yes. Let's take a quick look at the second line. Second line begins with the note C, yes, and then the next note goes down by space. So you skip a note, C and A. Look at the next one, D, and the next one goes down to the next line, B. So those two measures go. Very good. And then if you look at the next part, you see a scale, and the first note is again on a space. And maybe you recognize that one pretty quick. And the notes that follow are all moving by step, except there's one note that's repeated. And it's on a line. What's the name of that one? B. Very good. So we're going to go from E to B, and then repeat B, 2 beats here, and A. Yeah? So we have a melody, and it sounds something like. The next part is called variation. So if you look very carefully at the first two lines that we just played and the next two lines that follow, you'll notice it's the same music, except we've added some notes. When we improvise, we can do this. And if we think about taking what's on the written page and adding something to it, embellishing it, making it a little more interesting, not only to play, but to be listened to. So in the first measure, you had initially the theme, but in the variation, the A has a number of other notes that follow it. It goes down to G, and back up to A, and then it skips to the note C, very good, and then drops back down to B. So instead of hearing, we end up hearing Okay, I'm going to stop there and let you have a chance to actually practice on this. Today we started with the notes G, B, D, and F, and then A, C, E, and G. And I'd like you to play those notes. But after we've done it 2 times, I'm just going to play the chords. And what I'd like you to do is experiment playing them in any different sequence you want. So if we're supposed to be playing just line notes for the G7th chord, instead of going from G, B, D, and F, you could do D, F, G, B, or any variation of it. And then when we switch to the next chord, the A, C, E, G, the same thing. After we've done this a couple times, the 3rd and 4th time, see if you can actually break from it. So I'll play along with you, and we're going to just make it a little bit more rhythmic. So we're going to change the rhythm just a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting by ready? Down, 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 and go. A, C, E, repeat, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. You're on your own. Thus concludes step 14. You learn 2 new notes. You learn maybe a little bit more about reading in thirds, going from line to line and space to space. Hopefully, by the end of this week, you'll notice that you're picking up on that much quicker. And you learn 2 chords. 2 chords that have a melodic connection. The G7th chord, G, B, D, F, and the A minor 7th chord, A, C, E, G. So got a chance to experiment on creating a variation, and at the very end, you improvised. This is great. I hope that you have a great week of practice. Next step, we're going to continue exploring the art of variation and improvisation. Have a great week of practice. See you.